Hi, I'm Jeremy Malarski, and I am with the No Kid Hungry Missouri Project. In this video, we are going to talk about online mapping tools that can help your school or nonprofit organization feed free meals to children during the summer. First, a little about us. No Kid Hungry Missouri is a cooperative effort between the University of Missouri's Center for Health Policy and the Missouri Family and Community Trust, called FACT. The Center for Health Policy's mission is to provide well-being and access to equitable healthcare for all Missourians, particularly those in the greatest need. The Family and Community Trust's mission is to promote and support effective public-private partnerships and community involvement to develop innovative solutions for improving the lives of Missouri's children and families. FACT's board of directors is composed of leaders from the private sector and directors of Missouri state executive agencies whose mission is to serve our state's families and children. FACT guides the work of 20 well-respected local community partnership agencies throughout Missouri. You can see where they are in the state on this slide. No Kid Hungry helps folks leverage USDA child nutrition programs to make the venture of feeding children sustainable. We assist with projects to improve school breakfast service, provide meals after school, and to feed kids over the summer. In this video, we're going to talk about the last one of the USDA summer programs called the Summer Food Service Program, or SFSP. It started in 1968 and was an amendment to the National School Lunch Act. It's available to both schools and nonprofit organizations. So one of the rules for serving meals under SFSP is that you have to do so in an area that's eligible. The program is meant to serve high-need areas, and they can qualify in two major ways, either through census data or school attendance data. A site that can serve meals can serve any child 18 or younger. And that's what we're talking about for a second. Again, area eligibility, any site in that area can serve kids, and the meals are reimbursable if they meet all the nutrition requirements. If in an individual eligibility system, which works with traditional lunch and breakfast programs mostly, it's the child is bringing a form home for usually their parents to fill out, and it asks about household income, and that can cause problems with social stigma. We have heard from school officials, children, parents that not every kid will tell you when they're hungry, and a lot of children do not want to be labeled or stigmatized, and if they see there is a difference or they're being treated differently, there'll be less participation. So we've seen success in the Summer Food Service Program and other programs that use area eligibility in that the sponsors will just advertise free meals for kids. So maybe on school announcements or social media, they'll just say there's free meals for kids after school. They don't use language like low income or anything having to do with high need. It's just free meals for kids, and their participation tends to be higher. It also tends to remove that stigma, and we think that is a good way to reach the hidden hungry among our children, because there's going to be children who don't tell you that they're hungry, that need this food. Once a site establishes area eligibility, that is good for 5 years, so that can be helpful keeping your program going. All right, so how to find areas that are eligible. There's a couple of online tools that you can use, and that's going to be what the rest of this presentation is about. The first one is going to use that first major category of qualifying, which is census data. It is an interactive map on the USDA's website. They call it the area eligibility map. And I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this slide, if you bear with me, and just kind of show you the map live. This is very much like a Google map in that you can search for locations. Here in the top left, there's a search box where I can type zip codes, cities, counties. You can zoom in that way. You can also pan and zoom around to look at specific locations. The zones that are red are ones that, based on census data outright, considered area eligible under SFSP. The ones that are blue are not. And this map is pulling from the last decennial census for this information. The zones are called census block groups, and they are ones where half of the children or more were eligible for free and reduced meals at the time of the last decennial census. So that's method number one. It is not a tell-all, by the way. It's just for this one criteria. do these areas qualify? Excuse me. Okay, second method I want to show you is called averaged eligibility. That also uses census information, but it's a little trickier. So without getting into a huge amount of detail, if you have a census block group that is adjacent to other block groups that are eligible, but that one isn't quite there yet, in some circumstances, the state has the discretion to grant eligibility to that area. And No Kid Hungry has a interactive map that helps you find these average eligibility zones. So if you can kind of think back to the last map we saw, this one has all that information. These orange zones here are the ones that would have been red in the last map. They're the ones where the census block group qualifies outright based on the last census. These ones that are gray do not qualify in any way under census data. And these ones that are blue are block groups where you might have averaged eligibility, and at the state's discretion, they can grant eligibility to sites in that area. They still have to have, there still has to be some decision-making on the state. They're not eligible outright, but these are areas where it's possible that you could be eligible to serve SFSP if under certain circumstances. So for the last method, I'm going to actually use a little bit of an example. The last method uses school attendance data, and there's not an easy clicky map for that, but there is there's ways to do it. So in a school attendance zone, we're looking whether the site is in the area of attendance of a school where 50% of the students were enrolled in free or reduced school meals. And you can get the data for that, just the numbers, and a map that will help you from the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I'm going to kind of show you how to do that. So if you Google DESE, Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education statistics, you will find this page that has some data sheets, some PDFs that will show you for every public school at that time, what was the percentage of students eligible enrolled in free or reduced lunch. And it looks like this. And then if you wanted to, we'll get into a practical example in a second. If you wanted to see where the school districts were, there's an online map that just shows you where the district boundaries are. It looks like what you see on the slide. Now, suppose, for the sake of discussion, I am an SFSP sponsor in Adair County, Missouri, which is in the northeast part of our state, and specifically the town of Kirksville. And I want to start, by the way, this is a best practice, I want to start with where the children are likely to go. And here in Kirksville, there is a nice aquatic park, according to Google Maps, here in the north central part of the city. It's right here where the highway kind of curves. And by the way, just doing a simple Google map and maybe looking at your location in Street View can also give you some clues about whether the site might be a good fit for SFSP or summer meals, because you can see things like where the highways are there any playgrounds in the area. What we've heard from sponsors who say that they have had sites that are on the bad side of a highway. So if maybe on one side of the highway, there's an apartment complex, and on the other side of the highway is the park where they were thinking of serving. That was, in that example, that was a barrier to those kids, and they didn't have as high participation because of the highway. It's just good to look at your environment, if that's not too obvious. So this aquatics park in Kirksville, back to our example, according to census data, is not eligible. You can see that the census block group that it's in is blue. So based on the last decennial census, it's not eligible. Also, based on average eligibility, the state does not have leeway to grant discretion for this zone. It is gray on the average eligibility map that No Kid Hungry provides. But if we look at the DESE data for that area, there's the largest public school district in Adair County, which happens to include the town of Kirksville, is Kirksville R3. And you can see from the spreadsheet that the state helpfully puts on the website, at least there are 2 schools that are higher than 50% and 2 schools that are not. But the area of attendance can be for any level of student. And if you kind of think through the logic here, any elementary age student anywhere who lives anywhere in the boundaries of Kirksville R3 would go to Ray Miller Elementary. Therefore, any site within the boundaries of Kirksville R3 is eligible. So it's probably worth saying that again. A lot of times we talk to, say, this is a classic example where the elementary school is over 50%, middle school is maybe, and the high school is below 50%. And those are the only 3 schools in a district. We have a lot of small districts like that in our state. The high school will be considering serving SFSP or another program under USDA that uses average eligibility, and they think they're not eligible because the high school itself is under 50%. That's not relevant in a situation like that, because if you imagine, just for the sake of discussion, there was an elementary school student or an elementary age student living on the site of that high school, that elementary school student would be attending an eligible school. Therefore, it is in the area of attendance of a school that's higher than 50%. So you can serve at that high school. You could serve, if you wanted to, you could serve SFSP at Kirksville Senior High. It's at least, there's other factors to consider, but that site is area eligible because of Ray Miller Elementary. And next step will be to actually see the boundaries of the district itself. There is a interactive tool on DESI's website where you can look at district boundaries. You can search by county and pan around. And as we see on this slide, our water park in Kirksville, right about there, is well within the boundaries of Kirksville R3. And because any elementary school student in Kirksville R3 attends a school that's higher than 50% free and reduced, the entire district is boundaries are area eligible. And so you could, there is no area eligibility reason why you couldn't serve SFSP at the aquatic park we're talking about. Okay, so that's on area eligibility. There is a final tool I'm going to show you that doesn't help you in terms of figuring out whether an area is eligible, but it can help you in terms of planning your program. And that's the capacity builder. So the USDA has another interactive map where it has a lot of data on locations and some past information about the SFSP program in individual communities. You can see it looks a lot like the maps we've been discussing. There's a search bar there on the top left. You can pan around here, search for things like zip codes, cities, etc. But this map has layers, and we touched on how it's a good practice to start with sites where children are likely to gather. This map has layers that show you where the museums are in a community, libraries, and HUD multifamily housing. Also, a lot of stakeholders that we work with on the No Kid Hungry project, they work in partnerships. You might have a school district with sites, or a school district sponsoring nonprofit sites, or vice versa. We do have a good spirit of partnership in our state, and we see some very successful partnerships between individual schools, districts, nonprofits, and so on. And that brings me to one feature I want to talk about on this map, which is it will show you where the past summer meal sites were. And that has some of the sponsor information as well. So you can get an idea of what's happened before, and maybe some agencies that would be a good fit for partnership with your agency. All of these sites, the URLs will be in the video description, by the way. And that is the long and short of my presentation. If you have any online tools for your colleagues in child nutrition, particularly in Missouri, we want to hear from you. If you have questions about any of these tools that I discussed, obviously, please contact me or anyone else on our team. We are here to help you. Please remember to like and subscribe this video. My contact information is on this final slide. I am the East Missouri Program Manager for No Kid Hungry Missouri. The Western Missouri Program Manager is Laura Hembrecht. Her contact information is also on this slide, and we'll also have it in the video description. Thank you for watching, and I'll just say it one more time. Do remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.